Hi everyone watching. Here we go. Here's John. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy Thursday, Hannah.
Happy Thursday to you too. I love your interior design. I just want to put it out there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was nice I moved from a place that was totally different, and so I got to buy a few new things to spruce the place up.
Amazing. Yeah, you've got to treat yourself when you first move in. You've got to
Exactly.
make it feel like home. Yeah, it's lovely. Is that plant
All this was
real?
very affordable too. So no, there's no room and board behind me. It was all very affordable furniture.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. Did you look on Pinterest and things for inspiration?
I don't think so. I think I just went for it. But I'm sure intuitively, I probably saw something at one point. I'm sure it wasn't all in my head.
Well, I'm very impressed. I was just thinking, is that plant real that you've got at the back or?
It is. It's a fig. So I actually got this from a friend who had it in a north facing window. No
Uh-huh.
doubt for figs. So I have a south facing window, which is great for figs. So it's
Yeah.
thriving. I got like 3 or 4 new leaves this winter, which is odd that the leaves come out in the winter, but I guess they do.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. I
Yeah.
must admit, I do have a combination of both fake and real because just in case they do die, there is still
I
some
don't mind.
greenery in the house.
I'm actually shocked that it's doing so well, to be totally transparent.
Do you water it much? Does it need much care?
So you water it once every 3 weeks in the winter and once every 2 weeks in the summer.
So you really swatted up on your tree knowledge.
Well, it's the only thing I have living besides this cactus, and that doesn't need much maintenance. So I
Amazing.
make sure that it's alive and well.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining. I can see people are obviously moving over to the breakout session now, so we'll just wait a little bit longer, just in case. But yeah, this is a great opportunity, obviously, for everyone watching to please ask questions to John and myself if you have any. Yeah, it's basically your space where you can kind of pick his brain and also, yeah, just learn a bit more about Omnisend too. So it's great to see, obviously, we've got a few more people here. And like I said, please pop your questions in the chat, or even if you're comfortable, you can switch on your camera as well to kind of chat with us too. But yeah, amazing. To start off with, I know that you did this already within the panel session, but please can you just introduce yourself for people who may not have already been in the panel session, and also just a bit about what Omnisend does too?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jon Knott. I'm the senior partner manager at Omnisend, based in Chicago, Illinois. We're a fairly global company. We have offices in Vilnius, Lithuania, and London, where I think a lot of the loyalty line team is, and then we have an office in Charleston as well. So I'm a remote employee on an island in Chicago. But if you're not familiar, Omnisend is an e-commerce focused marketing automation tool for about 70,000 brands across Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, and others. And we more or less give folks the opt-in channels to be able to control the communications that they have with customers, to give the right messaging at the right time via the right channel. So email, SMS, browser push notifications, all of those opt-in channels, and they're all able to leverage them all at once to build multi-channel campaigns and automations that convert.
Amazing. Yeah, I have dealt with Omnisend a little bit. I know a few of my clients have your software. So yeah, I'm really excited to obviously ask you some questions as well, along with our participants that are with us today. So I'm just going to keep the first question very broad for you at the moment. So I'd like to know what are some of the easiest ways a merchant can boost customer lifetime value in 2022?
Yeah, so I think about customer lifetime value as the end goal, and then I want to unpack how we actually get there. And so when I think about some variables there, I think about order recency, order frequency, their average order value. All of those things are indicators to me to how engaged or how loyal a customer is to a brand in particular. And so one easy way to think about it is kind of like a customer lifecycle matrix, if you will. And so we have a tool inside Omnisend. There are other tools that I'm sure do something similar, but you're able to map out your customers and where they're plotted, if you will, on this customer lifecycle matrix. And you're able to see, okay, these are my 100 that are truly loyalists. They're champions of mine. They spend often, they've purchased recently, and they have a high AOV. These are the customers that you can continue to nurture. You can give special offers to. If there's in-person events in a non-COVID world, these are the folks you want to invite there. If there's new products, they're the ones you want to get that in front of soonest. those are the ones that you are truly fostering to be, your lifetime long customers. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where folks that are maybe no longer engaged, they purchased from you 6 months ago but haven't purchased in a while. Even better is they purchased from you 6 months ago, they haven't in a while, and they used to have a really high AOV. These are the customers you want to build a specific segment for and provide like really personalized messaging to get these folks back into the mix, right? I think it's just grouping folks into segments that are digestible that you can understand, and then figuring out what messaging you can tailor to that segment in particular that's going to resonate with them to then move back into being a regular repeat customer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think about, increasing your customer lifetime value is just not thinking of it as just one idea, but breaking it down into smaller, more bite-sized segments.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that we speak about as well to a lot of our merchants, is kind of that most loyal customers, who are the ones that they need to win back, who are perhaps a little bit at risk, and how to target using different approaches. So yeah, absolutely, like by giving points to kind of attract them to claim a reward and to make another purchase, and being able to send that through to Omnisend as well is a really great way, obviously, to bring them back for another purchase there. Ellie has asked in the chat, we want to start using segments like likely to churn or risk of losing for more personalized automations, but having a hard time with what content to send. Where do you recommend starting?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think again, there's a couple of different ways to think about it. I think, the likely to churn, risk of losing, that could be from a number of things, right? It could be from maybe it was a one-time purchase. Like, for instance, the holidays, are over, right? How many people buy from a brand for someone else during the holidays, and then maybe that's not a brand that they shop for themselves with, right? And so I think the trouble with zero-party data is that if you're taking a quiz, let's say for your girlfriend, for your sister, for your mother, you're taking that quiz as if you were them shopping for something for them. And then myself, for example, I'm not going to be purchasing makeup from any of those brands. I'm not going to be purchasing skincare from any of those brands, most likely. And so I think that, I think what brands should do is like, January, February, during this time, and this is just for the zero-party data example for the holidays, but maybe, re-engage with with those that purchase for the first time during the holidays and say, is this still true about you? Like, is all the data that we gathered from you for the holiday still true, or were you purchasing from someone else? A way to get ahead of this proactively is to put even a checkbox like, are you shopping for yourself or for someone else? And so then okay, these are the 200 people that shop for me for someone else that I'm going to engage with post holidays, to then see if I can provide more relevant products to them, or to at least get more information that would lead me to be able to do so. So that's on the zero-party data piece. But to answer Ellie's question, I got a little sidetracked there. I think you certainly have that as an opportunity. Perhaps what was true about them is no longer true about them. So you could potentially engage with them to see if their preferences have changed in any way. And I think you also shouldn't shy away from doing something like potentially giving them certain value-added incentives like free shipping, potentially a discount if that's something that your brand has done and had success with, to get those folks back into the mix. Or like one of the Loyalty Line folks in the last session mentioned, just ask them if they haven't purchased in 6 months, maybe send them a quick note saying we'd love to know, why haven't you purchased from us? And maybe that you can glean a lot of insight from them in particular. Not sure if of your brand, maybe if you have a really high product value, that could be something to look into. If you have something that's more of a commodity and they can get at 100 different places, that's something to look into. So I think it all depends on your brand, and kind of digging into why the different scenarios, why folks might potentially churn, and then kind of building a strategy from there. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, I love the detail there. I think, it is going to be super important, obviously, to be targeting those different segments. And I really love the idea of, hey, we haven't heard from you, you haven't ordered in a few months, we'd love to hear why. I think that is super honest, super open as well. And I think will be really effective just to get some feedback from customers there. And in particular, to kind of some businesses that you've worked with? Have you got a favorite success story that you'd be willing to share that you've been involved with and you found a really good kind of reaction to customers from?
Yeah, in terms of like building a loyalty program that works. They're asking. Yeah, there's a couple of customers come to mind. I think, you know, one of them is Naked and Famous. They've been around for ages. They're a brand that I used to wear back when I was in like high school. So they've been around for a while. And what they were starting to find out is that, they'd always done this sort of personalized experience in the store, but they'd never really found a way to do it, prior to purchase online. And so this is what a lot of, legacy brands had to combat, is that, if you're in the store, you can smell the perfume. You can't smell the perfume online. And so there's a wonderful brand that I met in Austin when I was doing a panel at South by Southwest, and they created this entire experience on each of their perfumes pages, and they had unique pages for every perfume. And it was laid out differently. It had different colors. It had different font sizes and styles. It had a different playlist to go with each of the fragrances. And so, thinking of creative ways you can like bring something to life that, would normally be an in-store experience, and making it digital is what you want to be thinking about in terms of how you can kind of bring to life, something that maybe won't translate as much. And so getting back to Naked and Famous, they've effectively done kind of like a denim fit quiz on the front end. And they've seen a huge amount of success from doing so. It was obviously preventing them from not having to have so many returns. They now implemented kind of like a one-to-one support piece where they're able to help folks, not only if they're thinking about returning an item, they help them find the better fit, and they make that a better pipeline there. And so I think it's just finding ways that you can kind of listen to the times, and kind of look at where the market is, and being able to kind of respond effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think community is something that we do keep stressing a lot at the moment, especially in recent times. And it's easier, obviously, to retain your existing customers rather than acquire new ones. So I really resonate with that point there. And in terms of like different offerings and things, we've seen Astrid and Miu, for example, offering like a recycling and wanting jewelry incentive, and customers receive points for this. And things that just align with the kind of the brand values is super important there. We've got a question from Debs, and she says, do you have any case studies on charities?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Debs. I'm putting in a brand in the chat here. So one of our agencies in New York called Effigy Agency. The owner there is Jason Effigy. He's a great guy. He's a one-person shop. He works with about 10 different brands, and one of them is the Fashion Foundation. And we don't have a case study per se, but they've been with us for quite some time, and we've obviously been able to help them in terms of a deeper, Shopify integration, in terms of having segmentation tools that they hadn't used prior. And now they're, generating about 15% of the revenue based on these automations that they didn't have in place prior. So I can include a little snippet here. This is going to be a little bit longer, but feel free to take a peek at this. I won't read it verbatim, but I'll just toss it in the chat. Oh, I'm 700 characters over. If you want to toss in your email address, I'll go ahead and email you over this. So that works for you. But yes, we do work with obviously a substantial amount of e-commerce brands, but we also have services clients, nonprofits that we work with as well. I'm myself on a few boards, so that's a passion of mine. So I'll make sure that we can get you situated if you do work with a nonprofit.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Debs, for the question. So with regards to kind of communications about charities and things, do you have any advice, or what are some of the best practices that brands should be implementing to make sure they're driving the most engaging content to their customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is what we covered in the session. I think it's finding ways to provide relevancy, right? Again, on the point about there's a lot of noise in the world right now. We're being advertised to constantly. You really have to make sure that you catch someone's eye, and being relevant is key. And so we talked a lot about zero-party data. That's certainly, you know, the top of the funnel acquisition, you know, way that you can gather information as soon as possible. But you also have plenty of opportunities to leverage loyalty lion, you know, data to have those inflection points be more loyalty based. So based on, you know, rewards available email, you could do something where you're engaging with them with a monthly summary of how many points that they have. You can increase customer acquisition with, you know, the referral prompts, like we mentioned a bit in the last session as well. So there's so many different angles you can take with providing relevancy. So I'd say map out, you know, all the areas where you can provide relevant information, and then look to, you know, slowly but surely implement all of those, and then get them automated so that they're set in stone. You don't have to worry about them. It's almost like they're on autopilot, and you can get back to thinking more big picture about the business and not worrying about having to constantly be in a rat race of communicating with customers statically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is so much potential with the amount of flows that you can do to kind of target and segment your customers and your lists and things. So say if I were a small brand and I were fairly new, or I was just a small to medium sized business, what would be perhaps 3 or 4, or which emails are going to be the best priority to start up? Because I know some people on this call might be wondering in terms of their business size.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, you know, start with the basics. So when it comes to the automations that convert most with all of our brands, it's the welcome series, hands down, that converts almost 53% of the time, right? You have them, you know, day 1, day 0 of them, you know, engaging with your brand. You've probably done a great job of you know, thanking them for opting in to receive emails from you. You've probably done a great job at conveying your value proposition and showing wonderful products that they're excited to purchase. And you've maybe even given them a discount, or at least a reason to act now, some sort of urgency. So those, you know, converted at a 53% rate for all of our Omnisend customers, which is amazing, right? Half of all of those emails convert, which is wonderful. I'd say just below that is obviously your cart abandonment. So that's obviously pretty key. We know this to be a converting channel. I think the really interesting thing that our brands are doing is leveraging email and SMS for cart abandonment. So let's say you abandon something when you're on your desktop, and then you walk to the gym, you walk to the grocery store, then you get a cart abandonment, SMS message maybe an hour later, or 30 minutes later. I'm always on the go for a lot of the time, and so I tend to resonate really well with SMS browse abandonment. SMS cart abandonment moments, because I'm already walking somewhere. I have my phone in my hand, and I can easily just complete that purchase if I didn't, you know, actually convert earlier. So find interesting ways that you can leverage multi-channel, and those welcome cart abandonment and browse abandonment messages, I'd say, are probably your first 3 to really consider.
Amazing. Yeah, I think there are obviously going to be great tactics to bring them back to another purchase on site, which is really great. And so when you've obviously got your full range of customers and you've got people signing up and things, how can a brand really get to know their e-commerce community and all of the data? Like what can they do within Omnisend to get data out of this and really to understand their customer base?
Yeah, so I'd say, you know, there's so many ways to slice your customer base, and so I think it just starts with the basics, right? So understanding your acquisition funnel, you know, where are folks no longer converting in your funnel, and how might you be able to tackle that? Or, you know, if your customer lifetime value is much lower than those that are in your industry, think, okay, how can I improve this by better segmenting and better personalizing my communication? So I think it's just, you know, clearly outlining what you want to fix, and then working backwards and saying, okay, how can I personalize my customer communications more, and to kind of you know, attack that goal there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. In terms of putting that into perspective with the changes that have been happening with regards to kind of policy, have you found kind of brands struggling with the changes, collecting the first party data and things like that? And what's been your advice to them going forward?
Yeah, I think there's more opportunities to collect zero party data than there used to be. It used to be you have to create a custom form, and a lot of ESP similar to Omnisend, they have some flexibility, but they don't have all the flexibility under the sun that some of these brands are looking for. And so that's why we integrate with companies like Prehook, to be able to capture that data on the front end as well. I think that the more information you know about them sooner, the closer you are to that first revenue realized from that customer. And that's the biggest battle, right? Is getting that first conversion, because then they're in your world, and you have more data about them. You have purchase history, and you have their AOV and all that sort of thing. So I think the sooner you can get them to that first purchase, the better, obviously. And zero party data is certainly one of the helpful tools to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind, do you recommend like integrating a tech stack, like their full tech stack into Omnisend and things like that? And how would you recommend to manage that within Omnisend too?
Yeah, the really nice thing about Omnisend is that we're the vehicle, or the hub, if you will, for a lot of what gets communicated to customers. So whether it be loyalty through Loyalty Lion points and emails and SMS, whether it be reviews like we talked about with Okendo, or Gorgeous, like we spoke about last session, in terms of customer success and those inflection points. Omnisend integrates with all of those platforms and can really be your central place for all customer communications. And the beauty is that once you integrate with all of the integration partners we just mentioned, so Loyalty Lion, Okendo, Gorgeous, you can leverage all of that third-party data to make even more personalized messages inside the platform. Whether you're targeting reviews as a means to create more social proof and get additional customers, or whether you're looking to target customer success so that you can shorten those sales cycles and make sure that you get to quick resolutions, or obviously loyalty in terms of creating lifetime customers. There's so many different angles, and the beauty is that Omnisend is kind of at the center of that, helping you to communicate and have a real strategy in place for messaging to your customers.
Yeah, definitely. And I know UGC, user-generated content, is massive. And how have you found the uptake with customers towards this shift of perhaps pushing more reviews onto site and things like that? And have you seen any specific case studies where they've done it in a unique way that perhaps we wouldn't have thought about initially?
Yeah, I can't think of a brand off the top of my head, but there's just a lot of flexibility now, more so than there used to be. I think, customer reviews used to be something that you'd have to like hard code onto your site. Maybe you had to build a page in particular for it. But now there's applications like Okendo where you're easily able to have it live on site. You have so much flexibility in terms of how you showcase those reviews, in terms of the customization. You can make it look and feel like it's your brand. And so it really is an extension of your business. So you can think of Omnisend, Gorgeous, Loyalty Line, Okendo as an extension of your business that's taking care of something that you would have to be doing on your own, which is obviously a lot to ask. So user-generated content is wonderful. I think third-party reviews are definitely a driver of interest, and can be really useful. And so I'd say if you haven't explored reviews as a possible acquisition tool, it can definitely assist in getting customers interested. And honestly, I think what the unsung value of reviews is that it answers questions that you didn't know that customers had.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't have an FAQ section for everything under the sun.
Yeah.
But what you can have is customers leaving genuine reviews that resonate with questions that you didn't know customers were asking.
Yeah, it's very true. It's just like a mouthpiece for customers that you perhaps hadn't have even thought of. So yeah, I really love that idea, and definitely a really source of some valuable feedback. And following on from this, so there is probably going to be quite a fine line between bombarding customers with emails or communications and not doing it enough. So if a business is seeing them getting a lot of email unsubscribes, how would you recommend they prevent that?
Yeah, I think with everything that we've mentioned, right, it sounds like there's a lot of avenues, because there are. I'd say you do want to make sure that there's a fine balance of how many emails someone's potentially getting in, let's say, like a week. I think the rule of thumb is like no more than 3 emails, if I'm not mistaken. But Don't quote me on that. But I mean, think about how, I mean, we've all seen those ads that pop up incessantly, or those TV commercials back in the day when we used to watch cable TV that would come up 8 times in a TV show, and like you start to roll your eyes after a while. So you don't want to be at that point. You want to be before that point. So think about how you as a person would want to view a brand, and think about, okay, how do I come up with personalized messaging that is, you know, no more than X times per week. And again, the automations are going to be based on customer behavior. So those are a bit different because the customer is engaging with you. But when it comes to the non-automated messages, that's when you want to think about how often am I communicating with customers, making sure that you're not over communicating and oversaturating them with information.
Yeah, absolutely. Just considering all the different touch points of their journey. And we are getting close for time now. So I'm just going to ask the last question in the chat, which is follow-up question. The Apple changes last year had an impact on our reporting. What metrics should we prioritize now?
Good question. Yeah, so obviously open rates are no longer what they used to be. I think the beauty is that, you know, it forces brands to think about the other inflection points or the other indicators of a brand's engagement. So, you know, if you think about it, like open rates were kind of still a vanity metric, right? It was nice to see you had more open, so maybe it was something like the subject line was resonating. But then the actual, you know, click-through rate is where, you know, the real money is. So I think it definitely, you know, has you thinking about, okay, what benchmarks did I get in 2020 that I can bring over to 2021? And then honestly, looking at this past holiday season, what benchmarks do I have for how my holiday emails converted this year, so that I can bring those over and think about, okay, this is the apples to apples comparison of this year, and then what will be the 2022 holiday season. And so I think it forces you to think a bit more about the customer and rely a little bit less on you know, subject line X, Y, and Z. I think you have to be just a little bit. You have to like see around the corner almost. But I say look at the data that you have. You still have lots of data, even though you don't have open rates. And I'd say, you know, just look at the click-through rates and hopefully be able to glean some useful insights there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jon, for answering all of those questions. It's been super insightful. If anyone else has any follow-up questions, where should they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put my email in the chat here. And then feel free to find me on LinkedIn if you would like to as well. I'll go ahead and toss that in here. But it was great connecting with all of you. I'm happy to answer any other questions that come up. Debs, I'm going to reach out and get some insight over to you via email. And yeah, feel free to reach out whenever.
Thank you so much, Jon. Have a lovely rest of your day. And if everyone heads back to the main stage, there is going to be another discussion there.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.